Hi, this is Kristen,
And this is Ashley.
and this is 1,000 Miles of True Crime. I miss you, friend. I'm so sad that you left me.
I missed you too, especially to come back to cold Chicago. But it was so good seeing you last week. So I finally got to go out and see Kristen's new house and everything. And it was so good seeing you. And I didn't even get to tell you, we got to do this like really cool Mickey Mouse hidden adventure thing. Like I found so much stuff to do in your area with kids. It was awesome. It like made vacationing easier when you can like just keep the 3-year-old happy.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to make it out, and I really enjoyed you guys' company. So, I miss you. Um, I want to talk about what we're covering today. I know you know a lot about this case. We are going to be covering the Idaho murders. So, what
Ooh,
are your thoughts there?
so I'm so glad you're covering it. When we first talked about you covering this, I was really happy because I kept doing like these insane deep dives on this case and like I knew I didn't want to cover it. And like if you're on TikTok, there's no way you haven't like I'm surprised if anyone hasn't heard of this case in general. It's been going insane since November, but especially if you've been on TikTok, it's insane. And for me personally, the thing like that really got me, and I think we talked about this in the last episode too, was like when you're in college and stuff, like for a lot of people, it's their first time away from home. And I think you just have this like sense of security that you should not have, right? Like you feel really safe. And like if you're at home and like with all six of your roommates or your other roommates, 5 roommates, like I think you have this real feeling of like security and you're okay. So for me, the idea of like these 4 people just, I mean, at least in the beginning, we thought they were all asleep. They're all asleep at their house, and somebody comes in and just brutally murders 4 of them. And then to know there was other people in the house that survived and like didn't even know an attack was going on. Like it just baffled me. And I was like, I need more. I need more. Like I could not get enough. And I know that so many people were sitting there like at the edge of their seat just praying that they were going to catch someone for these murders. So I'll stop talking. I will let you dig into all the actual facts.
Yeah.
I've promised to not butt in too much this episode.
No, no, I know you know a ton about this case too, so butt in as much as you want. But yes, like you said, this horrible, horrible crime that I mean, I guess stunned the world, stunned the Moscow, Idaho area. It was just horrifying, like you said. So I'll go ahead and get into it. I do want to state I am really sticking to more of the facts and not so much of like the TikTok or media theories or armchair detective theories and things of that nature, but so that our listeners are aware of what they're getting. So this tragic, puzzling case of 4 University of Idaho students who were murdered at their home at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. And this happened on November the 13th of 2022. Like you said, 2 people were also in this home and they were left completely unharmed. So if you don't know anything about this case, they have a suspect in custody right now. His name is Bryan Kohberger, and he is facing 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. So I'm going to be really focusing on the probable cause affidavit that was released just recently, and going into detail on how they were able to like kind of tie him to this case. So if you aren't familiar with what a probable cause affidavit is, I've got you. I've got an actual definition of what it is. So an affidavit of probable cause is a sworn statement typically made by a police officer that outlines the factual justification for why a judge should consent to an arrest or search warrant, or why an arrest should be made during a crime in progress that's based on like solid evidence and that the person in custody is the person who is likely to have committed the crime. So that's essentially what that is. And that was really important. And when it was released to the public, people were like, I got to read this. I want to know what happened. Like, what did this guy do? How do we know it's him? And when I get in down to the nitty gritty of it, it's going to be hard to say otherwise. It really is. But Again, he's innocent until proven guilty. So I'm going to now jump over and talk about the victims. So we have Kaylee, who was a 21-year-old senior, and she was from Idaho. She had actually planned on moving to Texas after graduating. She had a job lined up and everything. And like kind of scary, eerie, she had actually reported to her friends that she felt like she was being stalked in the weeks before the murders actually happened. And then we have Madison. Madison was a 21-year-old, and she was also from Idaho. She was at the University of Idaho studying marketing, and she was actually best friends with Kaylee. So these two were basically inseparable. If you saw Kaylee, you saw Maddie. And she
But
actually had a
they had been best friends like forever, right? Like this wasn't a college thing. This was like
they
BFFs for life.
they go way back, yes. And that was like they had their first boyfriends together. They did a lot of their firsts together. And the sad thing like that was seen on the media or the news coverage and interviews with like her parents, they said like they did everything together, including die together. And I just was like, that
Oh.
that was heartbreaking to hear. And sad to really even just think about. But yes, they were friends for a very long time. And
I remember too, they were saying like it was kind of like losing two daughters because they were that close, you know? It's ugh.
and their families. So it's like their parents felt like they had both gotten an adopted daughter per se.
Yeah. I
So
already have chills.
I know. Then there's Xana, and Xana was a 20-year-old also from Idaho, and she was a junior at the University of Idaho, also studying marketing. And how these friends kind of all remained connected. Maddie and Xana both worked at this place called the Mad Greek, which is a restaurant or something on the campus. So they were working together. And then we have Ethan Chapin. He was a 20-year-old from Washington, and he was actually a freshman majoring in recreational sports management. So he and Zaina were actually dating. A little bit about Ethan, which I found also to be another crushing moment, was that he is actually a triplet. And so his two sisters also are students at the University of Idaho, and like when all this went down and everything. So that in itself of like losing one of your, the people you shared a womb with. um
Yeah.
I thought that was horrible. um and now I'll talk about the surviving, I guess, victims, or, the ones that were left unharmed. Out of respect for them, I'm not going to utilize their full names. So I'm going to refer to them as DM and BF. And so essentially, the five girls were like renting this house at 1122 King Road together. And, it's like walking distance from the University of Idaho, kind of like a party house. But they were all living together, and then Ethan was just there spending the night of the murders. So I can't talk about the murders without first talking about the day before the murders. So I'm gonna go into what we know about where these six people were at leading into the murders. On November 12th of 2022, there was actually a game at the University of Idaho. Their football team is called the Vandals. And so, like most college towns, game day consists of tailgating, drinking, partying. The Vandals actually lost the game, but that didn't stop the party. Xana and Ethan are said to have gone to a party at the Sigma Chi frat house, and they were there and seen by BF and DM from the hours of 9 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. Kaylee and Madison were actually hanging out at a local bar called the Corner Club, and they were said to have been there between 10 and 1:30 a.m. And there's actually video footage of them at this bar, and like everything seems normal. They're out with their friends, looking like they're having a good time. Definitely were drinking and intoxicated, which is normal for college students to be. And so Kaylee and Maddie actually leave the corner club and head to a food truck called the Grub Truck around 1:30 in the morning. Like most, you know, people that are out drinking, they want to grab something to eat afterwards. And the interesting thing about where they went, this food truck actually live streams like their when their food truck is in service, or they live stream it on Twitch. And I didn't know like food trucks do that. Like I didn't know that that was a thing. Like who would want to see that? But they do. And it's crucial that like they have this recording because it shows literally a timeline of where these girls were, what they were doing, who was around them, all up until they then go home at like after they get their food, they're at this food truck for maybe 12 minutes, and then they get picked up by a car and they're dropped back off at the house at 1122 King Road. So by 2 a.m., all six of them are back at the house. It's apparently in their own rooms. And this house is kind of interesting because it's a 3-story, 6-bedroom house. And there's 2 bedrooms on each floor. So the layout is kind of weird. Like even looking at the pictures of the house, like the first floor and the second floor almost seem like they're equal, like the same, but they're not. It's weird. When I'll post a picture of the actual house so that you can see what I'm talking about. But the layout is definitely weird. So Kaylee is with Madison on the 3rd floor. Xana is with Ethan on the 2nd floor, and DM and BF are on the 1st floor. And I don't know if we're ever gonna really know what happened between 2 a.m. and when the murders actually occurred. But what we do know is that Xana was still up around 4 a.m. And we know this because she placed a DoorDash order that got delivered at 4. And her TikTok activity also shows that she was using TikTok at 4:12 in the morning. We know for sure that Xana was up at that time. And then it was around 4 a.m. that DM was woken up because she heard what she thought was Kaylee, who's 2 floors above her, playing with her dog Murphy. And DM thought she heard Kaylee say something like, "There's someone here." What would you do if you're in your house, you're in the comfort of your own house? Who's going to be coming to visit your house at that hour? I don't know. My college experience might have been different than yours, but
Hey, my house right now, I'd be like, call the cops. I'd be really freaked out. Like in college, um, far less different. I lived with a ton of people. I think there was it wasn't even a party house, but there was a ton of people. We squeezed as many people we could possibly get into this little townhouse. So what not that strange for me. I also had friends that lived in party houses in like zero. I wouldn't have like batted an eye. I would have been like, yeah, like great. They're at it again at 4 in the morning, like kind of thing. Like I wouldn't have thought twice, honestly,
so
especially
I
at that age.
so I have another question too then. Like if it was someone that you absolutely had never seen before, didn't recognize, would that be alarming to you? Would that have been alarming to
No,
you? Wow.
no, like honestly, no. Which again is why stupid to feel safe. But like, yeah, no, especially in a party house situation. Like, I've had friends who just had people coming in and out, and like a lot of times you're talking about a situation where it's not like 2 people living in a house, it's like 6 people. Like, so chances are you're not gonna know every single one of your roommate's friends, unless it's a situation where you like grew up together and you guys have all been friends forever. Maybe that's a different situation. But yeah, honestly, I probably would have been like, that's strange, and like went back to bed.
Okay, well, I mean, that's different perspectives for you. So So DM said she actually looked out of her bedroom and she didn't see anything, right? So that was the first time that she heard someone say there's someone here, and then she opens the door, she doesn't see anything. Then she says she opens the door a second time because she thought she heard crying coming from Xana's room. And then she said she heard a male's voice say something like, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And so that statement is like directly from the probable cause affidavit. So then she says she opened the door a third time after she heard crying, and she saw a figure a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. She described this figure as being 5'10" or taller, a male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM, so her door is open, and she stood in a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the backsliding glass door, and then DM just closed her door and locked herself in her room. And she did not recognize this person at all. And I like played that in my head, like I visualized it, and I would have shit my pants if I was DM. I would have legit shit my pants. Like I said, our college experiences were obviously different, but I
Like,
guess
let me look. Okay. Cause I get it. Like, you're sitting at home and you're like, you're 35 kind of situation. And you're like, that's insane. But for me, like, I really tried to put myself back into being like 20. It's 4:30 in the morning. Like, let's be really real, guys. I'm probably still drunk. Probably pretty, let's be real. And now I'm in this party house and I see this guy. Probably was really scared and really freaked out, but he just walked out the door and everything's quiet now. Like, I'm 100% real that like I wouldn't have called the cops or anything. I would have went back to bed and been like, don't be a chicken, like kind of thing. You know what I mean? I would have talked myself out of it. Like, my first thought would have been, because even back then I was like a true crime junkie. Yeah, my first thought was like, that was a murder kind of thing. And then I would have been like, chill out, Ashley. Like, chill out. Like, take a drink of water, go back to bed. Like, do not be that drunk girl. Like, I'm sure and that's why like I always have like this entire case, like I've tried to defend her to be like, I just think I would have done the same thing. I would have been like very freaked out in that moment. And then once he was gone, I would have calmed down, I feel like, and been like, that was nothing. I would have talked myself out of it.
I mean, I see your point. And then to factoring in, we know that they were intoxicated. So it's that. I think if it were me, yes, and I was intoxicated, I'd be like, "Oh, okay." And close the door, lock it, and go lay down. But it's just, oh, it's cringy to even think about. It's just it creeps me out so bad. So only a few hours after, these kids are having like a fun night out with friends, drinking, having a good time, Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan were stabbed to death, brutally stabbed to death with a K-bar knife, while DM and BF were on the first floor, completely apparently unaware. And the next part that I say, I want you to brace yourself. I know you already know, but the police were not called until almost noon on the 13th. Do you find that to be unusual? What are your thoughts
Okay.
as to why the police weren't called earlier?
Everyone's going to attack me. So I'm ready for it, guys. Because me and you have had this debate several times. And I said, even like before we had all this information, I said, yes and no. Like, who are we talking about here? Like, honestly, because what's never been like super clear to me, right, is how close she actually was to all the roommates. Like, were they all really truly BFFs? Because I will tell you, if I went to bed at 4:30 in the morning, and I was drunk and all these things, even though I recovered a lot quicker back then, I still was probably sleeping till like 10:30, and I'm probably not jumping right out of bed. Like I'm probably laying there watching some TV or something for a while. And then like, you know what I mean? Like I think to me that part was not as strange. Like I don't think I would have woken up immediately because again, I probably would have talked myself out of being scared last night and like convinced myself that nothing really happened. So I don't think that my first instinct would be like, I should run upstairs and check on my roommates. So I that was my thing always was like, I need to understand their daily routine more. Like if they were truly all BFFs and they would wake up immediately and they would like all jump in a bed together and like eat gummy bears and talk about the night before, then like, yeah, that's really strange. Like we should all be looking at her and like attacking those two for why they didn't call the police. If that's not what happened, because like me and my roommates, like it probably would have been a couple days before they were like, we really haven't seen Ashley in a while. Like my work would have and some of my friends would have noticed way before my roommates. So that's always been my kind of thing is like we don't know to what extent like she would have normally saw these girls in the morning.
I get that, and I'm not trying to say that or imply that, there was something else going on, but knowing that you saw someone walk past your room, you were frozen, you're drunk, I get it, but did you text them? Did you text Xana? Did you text Kaylee? Did you text Madison and say, hey, like someone was in here? Like, did you guys hear anything? Is this your guest or whatever? I'd love to know, and I'm sure we'll find that out later or as the case develops or whatever. Like, did she send them a text message? Like, are you guys okay? Who was that was here? I didn't recognize him. Why did he have a mask on? Um, I don't know, but we do
I will
know.
say, really quickly, like I will say in your defense to that like I don't know, like for me when I was in school, I had like a flip phone, and I'm thinking about like T9ing, like are you okay? And like I like my roommates and all, but you know what I mean? Like I do think you're right. You're like a lot more connected now. It from a digital standpoint, it might stick out more quickly. Like, hey, these people aren't online. They haven't texted me. But I just want in truth, like again, she could. I don't know her. She could totally be guilty of something. But everybody's like really attacking this one girl, and I'm like, literally could have been a roommate. Like she might. And if I had fully talked myself in last night that like this is nothing, like that's just some guy from the party kind of thing. This is a party house. This is probably one of their friends. Like, you know what I mean? I think that if I truly talked myself into that the night before and then went to sleep, my like instant I wake up, my mind wouldn't be going to like my roommates were all probably murdered last night. Like, I
Okay.
think I'm just saying, like, if you went to bed thinking there was really a stranger in your house and someone got hurt, like, that's weird that you went to bed. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, okay, yeah, she probably went to bed because she just talked herself out of the fact that there was like a dangerous situation. But then why in the morning did she not go check on them? Because you already said it. She like
Talked
talked
it.
herself out of the fact that it was, that something
Nothing.
horrible had happened.
Yeah.
Again, none of this could be true. I'm just speculating and saying where my mind would have been. But people are like really quickly to like hang this victim, I feel, when like, I mean, again, I feel like we just don't have all the facts.
No, I agree with you entirely. And if she's listening or her friends are listening or whatever, I definitely don't want to give that vibe that, I'm implying that in any way. So the other thing that happened was the call that was made to 911 when it finally was made was about 11:58 in the morning. And it wasn't actually a call reporting a quadruple murder. It was actually a call from one of Ethan Chapman's friends that had come to the house that morning, and I don't know who else came to the house that morning. I don't know who else was there, but apparently there were other people there, and had found Ethan deceased and used DM's phone to call the police and said that there was an unconscious person. So I don't know, why wouldn't it have been There's dead people here. We got some murdered people here. Why was it more of an unconscious thing, an unconscious person?
Okay, you're right. But because I'm horrible and I'm always the devil's advocate, I'm just going to say we don't know what was said on that 911 call. It was not released. So chances are, and I think what probably happened is that like these are young people that just saw their friend murdered. Like, have you ever seen your friend laying there murdered? Because I haven't. Like, and I can imagine that like if I was making that call, there's like good chance that I'm not super clear in my mind and I'm like, hi, do you think you could take a ride out here to, you know what I mean? I'd be like screaming and freaking out. And like, I'm sure they'd be like, I don't know what this girl is saying. Like, can we just send someone out there? Like, so I'm just saying like, and I think that I would be in denial. And again, I don't know what the scene looked like. I don't know what they actually saw. But like I think I'd probably be in a little bit of denial to like clearly say like my friend's been murdered, my friend's dead. Like I think I would want be like, can someone get here? Like there's something wrong with my friend. You know what I mean? So again, I don't 100% know what happened, but like we don't have that 911 call. It's not public yet. So I don't know. I mean, like honestly, we just found out recently who made that call. We all assumed it was DM up until a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah, good point. So the police actually arrive at the home and they get there and they're like, what?
Yeah.
What is going on? It's, I mean, I'm not laughing. This is not
No,
funny
it is not a laughing matter,
at
but you
all.
are right. Like if you're expecting like maybe some drunk unconscious person or something and you show up to this horrible scene, like that's life changing and not in a good way.
Yeah, it said that it was like extremely gruesome. And there was like so much blood that you could smell it, like the aroma was in the air. Um, so the survivors are interviewed. They canvass the scene, you know, they collect evidence or whatnot, and they find a sheath, which is what was housing the weapon. Apparently, this K-bar knife. They find this sheath beside Madison's body. So they obviously collect that as evidence. They're, you know, like interviewing, trying to gather as much video surveillance from neighbors, local places nearby there. They're trying to gather as much as they can. So as they're gathering video surveillance from security cameras in the neighborhood, they identified that either a 2011 to 2016 white Hyundai Elantra was driving through the neighborhood between 3:26 and 4:20 that morning. So now they're like, well, that's unusual. So let's try and piece this together and see where this lead for this car goes. Um, the university is notified that there's been a quadruple homicide, and they sent out communications to the students. And I'm pretty sure panicking ensued immediately after that. Like these kids, they, you know, they were popular. They knew other kids, and when it was released that where it happened, like people are like, what? You know, they're probably texting these victims like, are you okay? I heard that something happened on King Road, like please let me know that you're okay. So chaos, I'm sure. The other thing too, on this same day, November 13th, there was actually another school shooting in Virginia. So I don't know if you remember that, but 3 people were killed and 2 people were injured. So it's like it's crazy. People are like on edge, scared, they don't know what's going on. And like not feeling safe anywhere really. So between school shootings and now students being murdered in their own off-campus house, um, where are you safe? Is anyone safe? So pressure from the families, the public obviously was really high, and they were like pressing law enforcement to figure out who committed this crime. We need an answer now. Give us some details. Let us know like you got some leads. Give us something. They weren't really giving them much. They weren't giving the families much. They weren't giving the media much. In the time between when the murders occurred and when Bryan Kohberger was actually arrested, his dad had actually made plans to drive him from Washington State to Pennsylvania, which is where he's from. So he had flown out, and he was going to do this drive with his son, which I don't find to be abnormal at all, because my parents would probably do something like that for me, right?
So funny. No, okay. You guys are gonna be like, shut up, Ashley, stop being the devil's advocate. That was what, like, no one was questioning that. I was like, what? Your dad flew all the way, like half, like across country, across the United States to drive back with you for a holiday? Like, that is what made no sense for me. Like, you're supposed to be going back the next semester and everything. As far as we all know, that part made zero sense to me. I could not comprehend why he was even like, except for the obvious reasons that he's very guilty. Like, I did not understand why he was driving across country to just drive back. Couldn't. I love that you're like, that totally makes sense to me. And to me, I was sitting there going like, what would I have to say to my parents to get them to fly across country to then drive across country with me? Like, it would have to be pretty damn. I'm just trying. They would be like, just fly home. So I don't know. That part to me was really strange. I was always like, what did he say to his parents? Where his dad was like, yep, I gotta fly
Well,
out and get my dumbass son again.
I think as we get further into learning more about Bryan Kohberger and his past and stuff like that, that might kind of explain why his dad would do something like that. But I mean, I get, and it's okay that we have different perspectives, but I love that, like, you're like, to me, no, like that was like, what the hell? Because honestly, I don't think you and I had like privately talked about that at all.
No.
Yeah.
And I actually
So
like kind of, and I had like brought it up actually with my dad at one point, and I like was asking, and he was literally like, well, did you break both your legs? Like, he was like, is there a reason you could not drive or fly home? Like, so I don't know. I guess clearly I grew up in a different family.
all right. So in this trek from Washington to Pennsylvania, Bryan was actually stopped by police multiple times for driving too close to vehicles in front of him. And the first officer actually asked, like, where are you guys heading? And in that video, I will definitely post that video. Um, it is very obvious that when that question is asked, like, he like tenses up. His dad's in the car and he's like real relaxed and lackadaisical. And it was like, Dad, you're talking too much. Like, shut up. Like, his dad spilled the beans. The officer was talking to Bryan. Bryan gave a short answer, like, "Oh, we're just going to grab food." And then his dad's like looks over at him and then looks back at the officer like, "Yeah, we're coming from WSU and we're going to Pennsylvania." And it was like his face was like, "Great, great," So and he got pulled over like two times. So that's all on the officers. What do you call it? Their cam,
Body cam.
body cam.
Yeah, that's
So
when I was like, oops, he didn't let his dad in on what's going on for real. That's when I was like, oh, he doesn't know the real story. Because he didn't look like he was like babbling out of fear or anything. Like, he just looked like, wait, what? Like, we're not just stopping in Indiana for food. We're driving all the way to Pennsylvania.
yeah, and I'm no body language expert, but did you get the sense that like he felt awkward, or he felt like uncomfortable, or like tensed up? Did you see
Who,
that in the video?
the dad
Bryan.
or
Bryan.
Bryan looked like, wait, are we really talking like yeah, at first he just looked very, I thought he looked like, oh no, the jig's up. Like, I'm gonna try to keep this as short and sweet as possible. Like, they would have already arrested me if they could have. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, he just seemed like he was trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of videos though where like they just like keep playing the like 2-second clip like right after the dad's kind of like, what are you talking about? and he's like staring right at him, like it looks could kill. Like that poor dad wouldn't have made it out of that car.
No. So that's the end of that. Like he makes it to Pennsylvania. And at this point we know it takes the police a little while before they actually arrest Bryan Kohberger. But I want to say from the probable cause affidavit, Bryan was actually on the radar for law enforcement 12 days after the murders. So granted, yes, he was arrested December 30th, but they were, I think, keeping a close eye on him from the time that they recognized he had the same vehicle that was in the video. So now I'm going to get into that. I'm going to get into all of that. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about his background. So he was born November the 21st of 1994. His dad's Michael and his mom's Mary Ann, and they live in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. He has two sisters, and from the accounts from his peers growing up, they said that he was socially awkward, and actually he was overweight when he was in high school. Like he was pushing 300 pounds, and definitely bullied for it too. He was described as being very intelligent, but also seemed to be battling depression a bit. He didn't really have many friends, and he seemed like he really wanted to just fit in. He was willing to do anything to fit in and feel accepted. Um, it's alleged that he self-diagnosed himself as having visual snow syndrome, and he actually joined a public forum for people dealing with this. Do you know what that is, Ashley?
I heard about it from this case. I'd never heard of it.
I had never heard of it either, and I was like, what? But apparently, it's a very debilitating thing. So, visual snow syndrome is a rare disease that involves both eyes and the entire field of vision. And it's like seeing static, like you're looking at a bad picture on an old television set or something like that. And it can impact the quality of your life because I don't know, like I'm thinking like I would just have a headache all day if that was what I was seeing. So apparently he self-diagnosed himself as having that, and between 2009 and 2011 he was posting a lot of posts on this forum about how he was feeling, and I read some of those posts and they definitely appear to be like cries for help or something, like someone please tell me what's going on with me, why do I feel like this. The post that I have is fairly long. It's from July the 4th of 2011, so I don't think I'm going to read the whole thing, but it starts off, and these are, his words, his photos attached to this and everything. I have had this horrible depersonalization go on in my life for almost 2 years. I often find myself making simple human interactions, but it is as if I'm playing a role-playing game, such as Oblivion. I can see what's going on, I'm slightly into it, but I can pause the game and focus on my real life. In this case, my life is the game, and my old self can be reached by pausing the game. But how? I often think of those things that humans do, things I have done in my whole life. I feel like an organic sack of meat with no self worth. As I am starting to view everyone as this, everything I've ever done makes no sense. How did things get this way? How am I wearing this shirt? And who decided that humans shall wear shirts like this? Like this is rambling.
I feel like we kind of like, not to bring up Steve from the last episode, but I feel like there's a lot of similarities. And like one of the things that I'm hearing and seeing specifically in the writing is like this, it feels like this sense or eagerness to really sound deeper or smarter. That, do you know what I mean? Like not just being like, I'm having a shit day, I can't see right. You know what I mean? Like really like spelling it out and like how rough it is, and like, do you know what I mean? Like really trying to like almost make it into a poem and just seem
Deeper.
seemingly on the outside to make it more than it not that that's not a horrible thing to be going through, but like, you know what I mean? Like he wants everybody to know, like, do you get that feeling at all that he's trying to like convey that he's smarter and
Well,
more deeply touched by this disease than the other people that are on this board?
so I think that in other interviews or like commentary that I read from people that were like students of his, he seemed like he always wanted to seem like he was deeper or like smarter than everyone else. And so, like, in reading this, when I read the whole thing, I was like, geez, like, dude, like, are you serious right now? So I think I get what you're saying. Like, he's trying to appear as though it's like almost like he's over exaggerating. Is that what
Yeah.
you're like that? Is that what
Yeah.
you meant? Okay.
Yeah. He's like turning it into like a novel instead of a post. And did he ever go to a doctor for this or anything? Do we know? Like turned to the
I
internet instead of a medical
so
professional?
I would say that's why I said self-diagnosed. Because I mean, what type of treatment is there for visual snow syndrome?
I
You
have no
know?
idea. I don't even know if that's like a medical or a psychological disorder, just to be honest. Like I don't know anything about it, but um I don't know. It just seems like, I'm not hearing in there like my doctor says like there's nothing that can be done. Like
It's like you said, it's like a rant, but maybe a little trying to sound deeper than what it really is. And it just goes on and on.
it's not like that rant either of like this is how it impacted me today and this is why I'm depressed from this today. It's like why do I wear this shirt? Like kind of thing. Like yeah, it's like I don't know. This isn't a Greek mythology. Like Facebook.
Okay, so moving along, in high school, he actually battled with a pretty debilitating heroin addiction as well as an eating disorder. So I don't know. What did you think about that? I know you know that.
Yes, I knew that. But that's big drugs. Like you know what I mean? Like heroin in high school. Like I think and not to say you can't overcome that, but like that's a rough drug to overcome. So uh, I was really shocked just because I'd been hearing about like he's in this doctorate program and all that stuff way before I heard like, oh yeah, and by the way, in high school, he battled an addiction with heroin. I was like, how do you overcome that and then get through that much schooling?
So it's almost like you remember how I said he was always looking to fit in and wanting to feel some type of acceptance from people around him based off of the people that had like shot up with him or did drugs with him.
Geez,
They
they were
said, they were like saying it was, I just want to fit in anywhere. I don't care if they're, you know, if they're doing the
yeah.
right things. It's validation. Like, do you accept me? Because let's, if you do, then let's do it. But like you said, he overcame it, and I can't imagine what that's like either. And like you said, when you're that young and you're doing something, a drug that hard, yeah, that to overcome that is almost amazing, right?
Yeah, like I mean, we'd all be more impressed if we were talking about a different ending, obviously. But I mean, that's a challenge. That's a big challenge to overcome. And unfortunately, so many people lose that battle every year. So, I mean, the fact that he did that is impressive.
So after beating his heroin addiction and overcoming his eating disorder as well, and like losing all that weight, he decides to refocus on going back to school, and he goes to Northampton Community College in Pennsylvania. He graduates with an associate's in psychology in 2018. And then I guess he just got addicted to school and psychology and criminology and all this stuff. That's the avenue that he went. So then he goes to DeSales University in Allentown, Pennsylvania. He graduates with a bachelor's degree there in 2020 and then a master's in criminal justice in 2022. So that's his thing. He's obsessed with that. Then he decides to move to Washington State to pursue a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University in Pullman. And up until his arrest, he had just completed his first semester. So that brings me to Bryan being in Washington and this murder happening in Moscow, Idaho. Well, where Moscow lies as far as in proximity to Washington State, it's like right along the border. So where Bryan actually lived was really only 10 miles from the house where these murders were committed at. It's also alleged that Bryan followed these three victims on social media. They don't follow him back. And he even messaged one of them multiple times, like, hi, like, how are you? Or, just like trying to establish some communication. And that's creepy.
Yeah, don't you hate that guy in your DMs? That's just like, hey, and you're like leave me alone. Ew, who are you?
Like, I don't even know who you are. Like, who are you? Why are you messaging me? I don't even know if, like, we don't know, obviously, if he was left on red either,
Oh,
but
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
he did it repeatedly. So I'm assuming he must have been left on red.
Or, like when it doesn't work the first three times, I just don't understand why they think like the fourth. That'll be what it is. And
Yeah.
then somehow it's always in his mind the girl's fault, right?
Yeah. All right. Bouncing back to the probable cause affidavit and why or how Bryan Kohberger became their suspect. On November 25th, so 12 days after the murders, Washington State University, they had officers like canvassing the area, right? So looking for this white sedan. Is there a white Hyundai Elantra that's in this area? And if so, we're just going to find them all, run the plates on all of them, and see if we get any leads from them. So his car, where he lived, that's where they were canvassing, and his car matched the description. So they ran his plates. And then they said, okay, this guy actually fits the description that DM described as the male that she saw in the house that night. He's tall. He's, not super muscular, and he's got bushy eyebrows. Law enforcement decides to dig a little bit deeper, and they realize that they have pulled this guy over during a traffic stop in the area of where the house was, King Road, like over in that area. And they pulled that body cam footage. So on August the 21st, Bryan had been pulled over late in the evening near the home on King Road. And during the stop, he actually provided his phone number to the officer. So because the vehicle matched and the similarities to the man in the house, they decide we have enough to go ahead and pull historical phone records. So that was the next step. And then it was found that his phone had pinged near the house at least 12 times in the early morning or late evening hours from June of 2002 until the day of the murders. But what seems to be the most damning evidence, according to the probable cause affidavit, is that DNA was retrieved from the button on that knife sheath that I told you about that was found next to Madison's body. And in the days leading up to Bryan's arrest, he seemed to be doing his best to conceal his DNA. Like, he was wearing surgical gloves. He was disposing of his garbage in his neighbor's garbage bags or garbage cans, like in the middle of the night. And
you have the distance, because I don't remember the exact distance to the neighbor's house, but it wasn't close. It wasn't like, oh, it was 3 feet away.
yeah, I'm guilty of like putting trash in my neighbor's, like like they are aware that I'm doing it, but like it's right there, like a driveway apart. But you're right, it was not close, so he had to go basically out of his way to dispose of his trash. But even more so, like you're cleaning your car, you're wearing gloves while you're doing this. What I would want to know, were you doing this before these murders, or like, because that's definitely a red flag if they've got footage of him shopping or something like that and he's not wearing gloves prior to this.
Right? Because if he did, then there'd be so many people from that area coming forward like, oh, I remember that weird guy. He was always wearing these gloves in the grocery store and like all these places, right? Like, and we're not getting any of those reports. So
I will say this, it's not awkward or unusual to see people wearing gloves, COVID and all that other stuff or whatever. I do still see people wear full masks, gloves at the grocery store. I don't know if you guys see that there, but and I'm in Texas and they're doing that here. Some people I've seen. Um I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know.
that's true. I guess it's definitely less weird now, but not to like take us way back or anything. But that was actually one of my arguments too, when everybody was like, she saw a guy in the house wearing a mask. And I was like, yes, pre-COVID, we all would have been like, what the like that would
Then
have been
yeah.
like, yeah,
Yes.
like, oh, there was a masked man in my house. Like, I wouldn't even care if it was my roommate. I would have been so freaked out. But like, yeah, I think like this day and age, like I hate to say it like that. Like I think it is. You're right. I wouldn't look as odd if I saw someone wearing gloves or like a mask or.
Yeah. Well, regardless, he seemed to have lost the fight anyways, because they were able, they were able to get his or get his father's DNA. Police were able to use genetic genealogy to get a familial match from his dad on the DNA found on the button of the sheath. And then they used the trash that they collected while they were surveilling Bryan. And there we have it. It was he 99.9999, all the nines. And so it's
Hard
time
to
to make,
argue the DNA evidence.
yeah, I'd say that's gonna be like, what do you think's gonna happen once this goes, once the case starts and all that in June? What do you think is gonna happen? How are they going? What is the defense gonna do? How?
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be hard, right? No matter what, because there's DNA and it's like clearly was used in the crime and stuff. But I'm sure they're gonna try to find some way to prove that he was actually not in contact with that knife and that knife or the sheath or whatever at that time. Um, I mean, we'll probably get into his lawyer. I have a feeling there had to. That's okay. This is what I will say. No huge lawyer, honestly, like stepped up to take this case. Like, right? Somebody's not flying in from New York, which we've seen on a lot of these other big cases. If you think you have any chance to win this case and you're trying to make a name of yourself, you'll step up and want to take the case, right? Like, uh, that did not happen here. So
I think people didn't want to touch it too. I mean, I think that there was just so much evidence that they were like, I don't know. I don't know. But they gotta go.
I'm sorry, people will always go back to what did he say when they got him? Like, didn't he say something like, did you arrest anyone else, or who else are you looking at, or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, did I just spoil your big reveal?
No, you didn't. Keep going.
But yeah, I remember like, so okay, I'll go into like the conversations that I've seen around this have been really around like, is he like this mad genius and like he left the knife there on purpose and like he purposely said that to always put it in people's minds that there was like another person who's part of this, like, or is there literally just another person who's a part of this and he, you know what I mean?
I think we will soon find out. I think 100% we will soon find out. Um, he's in custody right now. He doesn't go, he doesn't appear back in court until I think June the 26th. So I'm really, really curious to see how this is going to play out. I do want to talk about who he's being represented by. Ann Taylor, there's some controversy there because she's actually represented the victims' families in previous cases. So it's like, okay, and not just one, like three. So, and she actually, I think, removed herself from one active case with Xana's mom, or she withdrew herself with Xana's mom because she was, I guess, assigned to defend Bryan. So because they're, this is a high crime in Idaho, and they might not have had, I don't know, like attorneys with experience to like defend a defendant like this, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So you're saying like she may have just been like the best they had and they were like, I'm sorry, you got to do this.
or even all that was available too, because I think she was um assigned to his case. It was in early January. So it was like New Year's, like how like people were, I don't know. But she's also represented Madison's dad on drug charges. There's let's see, Xana's mom, Madison's dad. It's a hot mess. It's like, is this a good idea or no? It's probably not a good idea, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. We'll see what happens. Like I said, he doesn't appear in court again until June 26th, and I'm really curious to see how this all plays out. And I hope to post updates as the case develops and as things go to trial or whatever. So
Do you think it'll
that's
actually go in June? I don't think it will. I think that's way too soon for such a big case. That's just my, again, probably totally wrong, you guys. But in these long cases, we usually see like a year before you go to trial. So I would be shocked if they actually go to trial in June.
well, I want to know how it's all going to play out. What why I get what you're saying, like the delay, like, but what would be preventing it? What would be preventing it? These people
There's
want,
so much evidence in this case. The more evidence you have, the more you have to go through. It's just so much. So that's the only reason I would think that they would hold off. I mean, he's already waived the right to a speedy trial, or we'd already be there. So I just think, I have a feeling that's, again, they could totally go in June, but I think that's a really quick time to try to fully prepare for a trial like this one. And
well,
how crazy it's been in the media and everything. I mean, I got people in Dublin at work asking me like what's going on with this case. Like, that's how insane this is. So I just don't see it being like a rush trial unless they try to do some sort of a plea deal. But this guy seems to really like attention. Like, I don't see him wanting to just do a plea deal and like fade into the background.
you think he's going to like try and put on a show or something like for attention, or
I mean, we saw his post, right? Like, again, I'm just going off that. But to me, he seems like he's going to be a showboater. He's going to try to get as much attention as possible. Even like walking into court, he just has this like arrogance, smugness to him. Like, he thinks he's going to get away with this. He said it, right? He like bluntly said that he thinks the evidence is going to come out and he's going to get away with it or whatever. So, um,
we
so
shall
we'll see.
see. Yeah,
I
yeah.
A lot of people, and maybe I'm just on the wrong side of TikTok, but a lot of people were like really convinced that this guy was a genius and like there's got to be someone else involved, or there has to be another story to this, because like how do you make this many mistakes when you're getting a doctorate? But like, school is very different than like real life sometimes, like it's real easy to read things in a book and regurgitate them. Like, it's very different to like actually walk in a house. You're not even sure, like, because that's been a big controversy too, because wasn't like there was people in the house that weren't supposed to be there, that didn't live there or did not live there anymore, did not normally share a room but were sharing a room. Like all of those factors I think could play into you being like, whoa, like I was obsessed with one girl and came here to kill her, and like this all spiraled. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm definitely that. If one thing I can leave here saying, it's I'm not bought into the theory that this guy's a genius. Plain and simple. Like, and you can fight me on that. I'm willing to argue all day on that one.
No, no, I agree. I agree entirely. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you all for listening. Continue to support, like, you know the spiel. We appreciate all of our listeners, and we will catch you guys in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, I just wanted to come back on and let you guys know that as soon as we stopped recording, we realized that News Nation came out with some new information, and Ash is going to share that with us.
Yeah, so News Nation just came out, and so we have all been hearing like the speculation that Bryan was actually following all of the girl victims, shockingly not Ethan, but all of them on social media. So very specifically Instagram. It's been a bit of a rumor, and everybody's been really speculating where and how Bryan knew them. And so right now, News Nation is reporting that not only did he follow them, and not only did he like some of Kaylee's photos, he had actually liked every single photo from Madison. And on top of that, they're reporting that they have a source that states that they found photos downloaded onto Bryan's phone from Madison's Instagram account. So very creepy. I think we can clearly say that he had a bit of an obsession and was probably stalking these girls. And we just wanted to make sure we were, trying to give you guys the latest and greatest information. So we will keep reporting as we hear more. And then I will just, because we're still recording, I'm just going to throw out one more thing that we didn't touch on in the episode that was blowing my mind the entire time. And that is that Kaylee was not supposed to be there. Not that she wasn't supposed to be there, but she no longer lived in the house. So she had lived there for a while. And she had moved out. She was supposed to graduate early. Kristen had mentioned like she was moving to take this IT job in Texas, but she was not actually living there like that day. So I think it would have been a surprise unless you were truly stalking her that she was there. She had just came back. She wanted to show her best friend. She had just bought herself a brand new Range Rover, and she wanted to show off her car, go out for some drinks with her friends, possibly one last time in that environment. And totally, this is not reported. I don't know if this is true. There's a lot of speculation on TikTok and stuff that's maybe why she was actually in the room with her, was because like maybe her bed was already moved, or maybe there was stuff all over her bed because she was trying to move, like God knows why. But yeah, unfortunately she was there and was there with her best friend when unfortunately she was murdered. It's really sad, and I cannot wait to see what Bryan gets for this and what other information comes out.
Well, thank you, Ashley, for keeping us up to date. So we appreciate that. And that's all that we have for you guys. So thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.